I'm just going to read this little thing that I wrote yesterday to kind of get us started here. Um, it seems like so often in spiritual teachings, we hear about um, something that sounds like appealing to us, the ground of being, infinity, God, love, consciousness, so on, and that are sort of held out as that which we're seeking to realize or discover, and so on. And um, it's pretty easy to hear that and imagine that it's somehow not already present. I mean, it's just um, seems to be that way that kind of works. We imagine it's something other than what's occurring right now, but that's really kind of the linchpin, as I see it, is um, it isn't anything other than what's occurring right now. It is exactly what's occurring right now. It is this very moment of perceiving, this very moment of experiencing is exactly what uh, what the infinite is, what God is. And that's good news. It makes it easy, much easier to discover it when it is every experience that's occurring. There's nowhere else to go to find it. There wouldn't be anywhere else to go anyway, other than what's here. So this is what I wrote yesterday. The perspective of infinity is always available as experience itself. So this experience is infinity. We may imagine it's other than that, of course. Um, but this perspective of infinity, the experience of infinity, is always available as experience itself, because experience doesn't collapse into any definition. Even though the ways we characterize and define what's going on here seem to kind of suggest that that somehow we've come up with the ability to define what this is, interpret, sort of pull off the interpretation. Um, oh yeah, I know what this is. This is a room. Of course this is a room. It's obvious it's a room. It's like, it's pretty, the interpretive process that life or consciousness or whatever this is has evolved or developed or has the capacity to do, which is seemingly render what's here, conceive of what's here, sort of create a map of it or a model of it, is uh, kind of convincing sometimes. Like, oh yeah, I have this sense, like I definitely know that I'm speaking to you via this thing called a computer. Like, it's just like that. I mean, it's like breathing. The interpretations are there as effortlessly as this life seems to be here and consciousness seems to be here. The interpretations are just being somehow generated spontaneously without any intentionality that I'm conscious of. But that's the rub, is that we can, just by looking at our experience, exploring our experience, I would say just feeling what's here, we can discover, and that's what I want to explore with you. That is what I explore with people, how it just isn't the case. We just can't, this doesn't actually collapse into being something definite, because it's infinite by its very nature. So this perspective of infinity is always available as every experience, as this experience. No matter how you might be describing it, it's still infinity. It's still bottomless and ungraspable. Experience doesn't collapse into any interpretation. It's not resolvable. It's not collapsible as being something definite. Just feel your experience and you will see that this is the case. Experience reveals this to us. It's always revealing this to us, actually. It's always revealing the fact that it can't be collapsed, that it won't collapse into some neat and tidy framework, no matter how beautiful or elegant or sophisticated or complex the framework is. Reality won't have any of it. It will not be captured. It's too uncapturable. It's too wild. It's too indefinite. It's too indeterminate. It's like it's too many things. It's too. Uh, it's just too much information, and all of that information is itself not definable or resolvable. Our descriptions may seem to resolve things. That's what I was saying earlier. Our descriptions may seem to resolve things. Our characterizations may seem to place things in these nice, tidy little definitional categories, these boxes. But experience itself has absolutely no bounds. It has no limitations. It has no resolution. It can't be determined as to what it is. So let's just take a few moments and just actually just feel the presence of our experience, which we're doing anyway all the time. But let's just notice that fact that we're feeling everything that's being experienced that we might label as sound or light or color or emotion or thought or sensation, all of it, no matter what ways consciousness might be describing what it is. Just feel the presence of what's here. I mean, take something very simple that we can feel the presence of, that's pretty neutral. There's not much charge to it. This thing that we call the breath or breathing. Okay, so that's a concept, right? That's a word. It's a label for something, right? Breathing. Okay. So feel the presence of whatever that word is. Like the word glass is referring to this object, right? So the word breath or breathing is referring to this, to something that's present, that then we conceptualize as the process of breathing, right? We put that label on it. So, but what is it actually? What is breathing? Not as a analytical question. Oxygen coming in the lungs, that's all analytical. But what is it as experience? So just feel this phenomena, this apparition called the breath for a moment. Feel what is concretely present, where there's no abstraction, there's no getting around the fact of its presence, just the concrete presence of whatever you think breath is. Just feel the presence of that. And now as you feel the presence of this, just it's like you're exploring the, the texture of the breath, the felt sense of this thing called breathing, whatever it is. See if you can notice how it has no bottom to it. It's really without ground. It's peculiar in the sense of it's obviously something's here. There's an actuality to it. There's a presence that we would call breathing. But try to put your finger on what it is. Like to say, grab hold of it. Like, oh, here is what the breath is. This is what the essence of breathing is. I've got to the bottom of what it is. See if you can notice how it doesn't have a bottom. How you very quickly run up against this, the unknowability of it. Even as it's clearly here, something's here, and yet paradoxically can't be found, can't be located, can't be defined, is without ground or bottom. And you can do the same thing if your eyes were closed. You can open your eyes, and you can take another phenomena that we're encountering all the time that we have a name for, which is light. And you could look at light, this thing called light, and ask the same question you just with breathing. What is light? Like what is it actually? Like, go find the bottom of light. Go find what is the essence of light? What is light made of? What is it? There it is. Light. But feel the presence of light. Like, what is it as a felt sense? It's like very, very fine, very subtle. And the subtlety of light as an experience is itself, that subtlety is subtle, and that's subtle. And it's so subtle as to be, can't pin it down what it is. It's just pure, ungraspable space. Present and yet without ground, bottomless. Can't really say what it is. And this turns out to be true of all of our experience, no matter what we might be calling it. You can do exactly the same sort of exercise and exploration with anything that you encounter, whether it's relatively neutral thing like seeing light or feeling breathing, or something that's more, shall we say, highly charged, like difficult, something difficult emotionally, or some thought patterns that you find yourself seemingly caught up in. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. It can be explored as to, well, what the heck is this? I seem to sort of, I have this sense that I know what things are, like I've got these reference points to make sense of this thing called the world, and myself as someone apparently navigating a world. And yet all of it is experience. That's all that there is this experience of a seeming world and a seeming self navigating the world. It's all experience. And so I'm just disabling this waiting room so people don't have to wait to get in if they're popping in. What's really amazing is that and check this out, see if this rings true in your own experience, but the feeling of this moment, the feeling of experience, however it's being described, is never confusion. There's no confusion there. There's really no problem there. Because in the feeling of what's here, there's just infinity. It's bottomless, as we were just exploring with breathing and with light. It's because it's free of all definition and conceptualization, intrinsically so. It's intrinsically free. Where could confusion? There's no place for confusion to lay its head, or for problem to be. Where does it exist? So that transcendental, the nature of experience is inherently transcendental, in the sense of transcending all of our concepts of what it is. And in the discovery of that, the transcendental nature of all of our experience, we're freed of this apparent implications that our concepts suggest, which are sometimes wonderful and beautiful and inspiring, but other times can feel very constricting and limiting and suffocating and disturbing and so on. But those, in a sense, are defined into existence. But because this is intrinsically indefinable, this, as in this reality, this experience. And as I was saying at the outset, we don't have to address this inquiry at the level of the interpretations and sort of question the interpretations and try to refute the interpretations. We can just feel our experience, and in the feeling of experience itself, we can find out, experience will reveal the fact that it is not knowable. It is not, that it transcends knowledge. It transcends interpretation. It transcends any mapping, any modeling, any. And that, of course, holds true for whatever we think of as ourselves. Because what we are is also fundamentally just transcendental experience as well. And it's funny, because I think a lot of times, again, in spiritual teachings, we think that to find the transcendent, to find divinity, to find God, we have to somehow leave the orbit, of the human realm. We have to kind of extricate ourselves from the human, But no, whatever we think of as the human is nothing but transcendental infinity. So there's no reason to leave the human to go somewhere else, because there is nowhere else to go. The human is transhuman. And so that's the other beautiful thing about the transcendent, is it's inclusive of all of its descriptions and definitions. So it's not, ultimately we discover that the definitions and the descriptions are not a problem, really. But just one of the ways it can appear to be. It can show up as obviously interpreting and describing. That's one of its flavors. It's one of its expressions, clearly. It's doing it all the time.